Sexual assault, domestic violence, and stalking can happen to anyone regardless of their race, gender, sexual orientation, class, appearance, or age. It is important to know how to respond to someone who comes to you after having experienced this type of violence.
I could tell he wasn't right when we were in the cafeteria. He just didn't seem all there, you know? Then we were walking back to the dorms, he told me.
It was actually at the library. We were studying for a biochem exam when she started crying. I tried to calm her down, but I thought maybe she was just a little nervous about the exam. I mean, I was. But then she told me why she was crying, and I didn't know what to say.
It is a very scary situation, and your first instinct might be to ask a lot of questions and to probe your friend for details. Or you might wonder what they could have done differently. However, this may not help your friend. It takes a lot of courage to tell someone about a sexual assault, dating violence, or stalking. It is important to support someone instead of questioning them or pushing for details, because that can feel overwhelming or judgmental.
She always wore long sleeves. It was kind of weird, but none of us really questioned it. One day she showed up to my dorm room with her lip bleeding, and her eyes were red from crying. I knew something was really wrong.
The first thing you can do to support someone who has decided to confide in you is listen. A friend may tell you something 10 minutes or 10 years after it happened. Either way, it's extremely important to be an active listener. Allow the person to talk. Do not push for details. Also, believe what they say. It takes a lot of courage to talk about these types of violence, and survivors need to validate their experience. Be sure your friend knows how much you support them and take their concerns seriously.
He said she'd found his Facebook and started commenting on his page all the time. Then she found out where he worked, what dorm he lived in, his class schedule. She started showing up everywhere he was.
Another important thing is to not blame the survivor. No one deserves to be sexually assaulted, abused, or stalked. Avoid suggesting your friend could have done something differently. Survivors often blame themselves and need to know it wasn't their fault. Let your friend determine the pace of healing. Help them understand the resources available and encourage your friend to keep their options open. Allow them to make their own decisions. Giving them back control is very important.
She was at the party the night before, and yeah, they were flirting, but when she wasn't into him that night anymore, he just wouldn't leave her alone. So when she went upstairs to use the bathroom, no one noticed, but he followed her upstairs.
Know there are places on campus and nearby campus where your friend can access medical, mental health, and legal help. A good place to find a list of resources is on the Coordinated Community Response Team's website.
They'd been dating for a really long time and seemed like the cutest couple, but then he started to get really controlling. Almost as if he couldn't function unless he was right by her side, and he knew what she was doing at every minute. She thought it was so loving at first, but then she started getting scared.
Lastly, and this is just as important, don't forget to take care of yourself after your friend confides in you. You might need some support too. Know and respect your own limits and know there's only so much you can do to help. You may feel guilty, thinking that somehow you could have prevented your friend's sexual assault or other violent experience. But remember, only the perpetrator is responsible. Remember that coping is a long-term process.
It was hard, but I just let him talk it out. I think talking about it helped him work through it. He went to campus safety, and after that, the police.
I let her talk about it at her own pace. Whatever she wanted to tell me, she could. And then afterwards, we took her to the wellness center so she could get checked out.
We talked about it all night, and in the end we took her to the emergency room just to make sure she was okay. They called the police and she got a restraining order.